All right, dude. See, I just made it just in time. I was pinning everything. All right,
Okay,
dude, and we already got 4 people in the room. That is fast. Dude,
we're
sorry.
late.
We're late as always, right? But do you expect anything other than us
No,
being late or something going on with us, right? So,
always.
welcome to South Texas Football Unlimited, the Coastal Bend's first and original high school football podcast, webcast, whatever you want to call it, whatever we're doing now, right? I mean,
I don't even know what to call it anymore. And people ask me, I'm like, I
yeah.
just say a podcast, but I'm like, it's not really a podcast.
Well, it kind of is, but because we still put the pod out, right? I mean, the pod's still
True.
there. For you guys that want to take us on the road that can't watch it live, we are on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple iTunes, where else? Our Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. I mean, you name it, we're there, right? So, and the cool thing about Spotify is because it's kind of a visual show, right? With some of the stuff that we put out, right? The videos, the highlights, and stuff like that. You can actually watch the video on Spotify, right? So you can
There's a
see our
lot going on in the background in my house right now. God,
at your house.
you picked the right time to leave.
Yeah,
Everyone's
Justin's.
out.
It's been a day, right? So
Yeah.
Justin's entertaining guests right now, and I did not go to work today because my daughter has the flu. So that's been an adventure today. So man, it's been something.
He's the ringleader in there. There's like a whole there's a whole group of them. There's a
Oh, did
whole.
Ace pop? Did Ace pop in there? I wasn't even looking. I saw Rebecca said that
No,
Ace popped in there.
he's not in here, but I'm sure they heard him in the background. He's ringing out the two little girls over here. They're like 2 years old. Like it's just
Oh
chaos.
yeah, he's using his cheerleader skills now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys
Bad.
haven't intern Ace at the football games with Justin. This guy's a little ham, right? He acts like he doesn't like it, but he's canoodling to all these cheerleaders to try to get little footballs or any kind of little gifts they have.
We've made off like bandits in the games that he's went to. It's at least 2 balls, uh, pictures. They've even given him candy. He even was able to finesse some candy from McHugh the other day at the game. So yeah, dude, he makes off like a bandit, and then he gets mad at me when I don't let him sit there and play football with the little flag boys for like the entire time. I'm like, all right. So yeah, he's a trip. I need to post those pictures of him with the mascots. Just do a mascot watch of what Pat could have done.
Dude, what Pat could have done, right? So I mean, he's essentially the new Pat, right?
Yeah.
To an extent, right? To an extent. Yeah. So
Well, he
yeah, he
only
likes
tries
taking
Skittles, so he's like Pat.
he
That's all he gets from the concession is Skittles and a Coke. So same effect.
Oh man. So okay, what a day. So a couple of things that we want to knock out that we always knock out every week. Javelina watch. They went down to Central Washington last week, 23-19. They led most of that game and kind of lost it at the end. Again, like we said last week, these are the games they can win, games they could lose. So they can essentially lose these next 3, win the next 3, or even kind of split them. I think their playoff hopes are kind of dashed now with this loss.
That's a weird. I didn't realize until you mentioned it last week in the show that it's that I guess the I don't know what the to way to the words to use, but like it's hard to get in. I mean,
Yeah, I think
you
so.
maybe finish second in your conference, you have a chance to get in there, and it doesn't seem that way at all.
Yeah, it's definitely not like the state playoffs where 4 spots get in every district.
True. Well, that's a money pull.
Yeah. So we'll stay on the topic of college football here just for a little bit because something pretty interesting happened this weekend. If you guys, actually Tuesday, right? Yeah, what's today? Today's Wednesday, right? So yesterday,
Just want to say.
the first playoff rankings came out, right? And before the rankings came out, Justin and I were kind of talking about this at work. As you guys know, maybe you don't know, Justin's an A&M fan, and I'm a Texas fan. See, it's possible you can coexist together. You can get along. It is possible, right?
Yeah.
And I like to think that we're both realists when it comes to the university and the athletic programs, right? I don't look at UT through rose-colored glasses, and I think you're the same way with
I mean, I
with
sent
the
you
Ags.
pictures the other day. I was pretty much getting ran out of town by the fan base. Challenged Billy Lucci and his media circus about some of the stuff they say about the team. So I mean,
Hey,
I'm not a negative person about it, but I feel like I'm a realistic person about it. And that's because I love
remember?
Jim.
I thought you were going to say you were going to get into a fight with Billy. Leach. Remember when you wanted to fight Alan Harwell when that was a thing?
Oh, God, yeah. Hey, he threw a lot of shade at the show. Okay.
Oh
Threw a lot
man,
of
and we
shade at the show.
remember we used to call the Caller Times the local publication. Remember?
Yep. Until and was it Lynn that reached out and was like, "Hey
It was
man,
Rudy. It was like it was land through an intermediary right through Rudy.
why do
And
they hate us?"
why did they hate us? What did we do to them? Oh,
Yeah,
anyways.
we were real mature 5 years ago.
So back to that, right? So how do you feel? How do you guys feel out there if you're a fan of either fan base or either school? How do you feel with these coaches they have in place? Sarkeesian there in Texas, year two, Jimbo there at A&M in year 5. Josh Heupel in year 2 at Tennessee has the Tennessee Volunteers, and it is the first round of rankings, right? So anything can happen from here on out, but has them at the number 1 spot for the college football playoff right now, week 1 of the rankings. How does that make you feel? What he's been able to do from a dumpster fire that he inherited, and with recruiting violations and whatnot, and then comes in and plays the portal, and look what they're doing, dude.
I got a couple things on that, right? So I think the portal is a very overlooked tool, and I'm going to use the example of A&M, right? Jimbo didn't utilize the portal at all, and we're a pretty young team across the board. Yeah, there's veterans that were coming back on the defense, but if you look at the team as a whole across the board, it's very, very heavy on freshmen playing. A lot of sophomores playing. So I think the portal's huge. Hendon Hooker, quarterback, came from Virginia Tech. He's probably going to be, he should be, barring something catastrophic. I think he should be the Heisman winner, whether or not he loses to Georgia this week. I think if they beat Georgia, this is his Joe Burrow moment that Joe Burrow had against Alabama back in, was it 19, right? When they had
I
the
think so.
uh,
Yeah.
that magic run. They're very similar, right? So I think it just shows that the portal is a very crucial tool. I think Lane Kiffin's another good example of the portal being a big tool. He took Zach Evans. Zach Evans was, everyone kind of coined him as like a problematic case, and yeah, he kind of had his ups and downs. He went to TCU, balled out. Now he's at Ole Miss, and he's looking really good with Judkins and whatnot. So I think that's something that you should talk about. And then I think if you're a fan base, you should be a little bit pissed off. I got an argument with A&M fans that I think it's crazy. Ever since we joined the SEC, we've been a better team than them. We've beaten them, and then here we are, and they are probably going to make it into a CFP, win or lose this weekend. I think should be the favorite to win it all,
Yep.
honestly, because I think Stetson Bennett is going to be the guy that holds Georgia back this year. I think that's like the one piece of the cog that's just kind of chipped and doesn't work so well. Like he's good enough to win games because he's got a massive amount of talent around him. But I think in a game with Tennessee, you're going to see like some of the deficiencies come up, and then like you saw it last year. And then, I mean, they just were able to overcome the Alabama team because they had like literally like 5 first-round defensive players going in the college football playoffs, and they should have probably beaten them in the SEC championship, but they kind of had a little bit of a meltdown based off Stetson Bennett. So I think those are just some things that you should look at. Texas fan, you asked me, I wouldn't be so much worried about Sark just because I think we know I'm an offensive guy. I think he's a genius when it comes to calling offensive plays. I agree with you when you've made the statement that you don't know if he really can consistently game plan for certain teams. Uh, that would be concerning moving forward. But I don't think it's like panic button yet. If he continues this flow, then yeah, he's going to be in and out of the SEC fast. And it's Jimbo's on the same route. If he continues his flow and doesn't get an OC, he's going to be out of here within a year or two based off of what happens with his buyout. But the one thing that I found interesting today that I'd like to bring up, I'm going long here, is no one is talking about Sonny Dykes and what he is doing at TCU in his first year at TCU, which reminds you they just got rid of Gary Patterson because they've come off. I think they had like a mid-range record of like 7-5 last year, maybe
Yeah, I
even
think so.
worse. And here they are. They're sitting there right there knocking on the door of the CFP, and it was broken down today. They actually have a strength of schedule of a number 3, where Clemson has a strength of schedule of a number 4 or 5. They have, which means they have more quality wins
What's up, Ryan?
over tougher schedule than Clemson. But yet Clemson's sitting there in the CFP at like number 4, and they're at number 6. So why are they not getting the respect, right?
Dude, did you see what the I don't know if you want to call him the committee. We'll call him the grand poobah of the committee. Why he said TCU wasn't in the top 4? Why Alabama was ahead of those guys and Clemson?
No.
Because they were kind of up and down offensive defensively wise. So but they have no losses. So a loss,
Football.
yeah, dude. I'm like, hey, Alabama almost lost to Texas with a backup quarterback.
They almost lost to A&M.
They almost
should've
lost to A&M with a
Who's that
backup
crap year?
quarterback, but yet TCU's being punished for that same reason. I
Well,
don't
see,
understand.
and this is my problem, right? And this is one reason, like, I like the SEC football, but the other day I was just talking about it out loud, and I was like, in a way, sometimes I hate how dominant the SEC is because it's made college football it's made it so predictable, right? And it's the reason why I got away from the NBA. Like, I got sick and tired of the NBA finals being the same two teams for 3 years in a row, and then they swap teams like an AAU pickup league, and then then there's 4 teams that are competing the next 3 years, and it's like,
Yeah.
It just feels like every year it's Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, Georgia. Sometimes Oklahoma's been in the mix. In which, and I get it, if those fan bases are going to argue, well, we're better, we play good. Well, okay, yeah, that's good and great, but this is a glaring example of where the 4-team system has got flaws because it's people that are still picking it. So there's going to be some bias in there. And yeah, people are biased to Clemson based off what they've done the last couple of years. But what are you doing for me right now? If it wasn't for a 5-star true freshman from Austin Westlake, they probably wouldn't be undefeated right now.
Yep. And people dog that performance, but I mean, dude, it's a true freshman and he did enough.
That's an extra breeze. They can shut up. Yeah. I'm going to stand by that forever. I think that dude's going to be he's the next thing in college football. That team plays way better with him. But besides all that, it's like, this is why the expansion works for me because you're going to get the teams like TCU that just don't get the respect. You're going to have to put them in there. And then it's going to be one of those things of like when they beat them, like how upset is the committee, right? Because it's like, obviously, I'm sure Clemson brings in more money globally than TCU.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean,
so it's like, at the end of the day, that's what it really comes down to.
Yeah.
And that's why Oklahoma got in there multiple times and then just got run off the turf. And it was just like, yeah, they kind of deserved to be in there, but then they showed some like real weakness in a kind of, I mean, you'll admit it, a lopsided kind of weak Big 12 team. Yep. And it's like the Pac-12. There may be one team that comes out of the Pac-12 that can hang.
Maybe
there's one team out of that's a big maybe.
Yeah.
And like I saw Bo Nix already talking about how it'd be a different game if we play Georgia right now. No, it wouldn't.
He's gonna Bo Nix. Bo Nix is gonna Bo Nix. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't buy that one bit. I think Michigan somewhat can hang, but we saw last year how lopsided it was with Georgia. Yep. Ohio State is really, and Clemson are the only 2 teams that in the past have shown that they can really hang with usually the winner, which is always it's either Bama or Georgia. It seems like now,
but they recruit like SEC teams.
Exactly,
that's the thing.
So, and so I get where there's to be maybe a little bias to Clemson, but it's like, come on, man, like your own ranking system has TCU looking better. Yep. This is Sonny Dykes' first year. He made SMU a pretty, well-known name again in his 4 years there. So it's like, yeah, Josh Heupel's doing excellent stuff, but I think Sonny Dykes deserves some credit too. And I think TCU deserves some credit, and the way the CFP is treating them is kind of garbage.
Yeah. But again, it is the first week, right? So things will change. But I just thought it was amazing the way, short of amazing, I guess, the way Heupel's come in year 2 and took that dumpster fire and.
Oh, dude, they're on a whole other level. Like the entrance, the football entrance, the whole vibe.
Dude, speaking
buying all the seats.
That's so that's a good transition, right? So let's jump off the college football bandwagon, and we're going to stay in the state of Tennessee here for a little bit. So our guy Doug from 97 Sports Promotions, he travels a lot for his business and whatnot. So he went to this school in Tennessee. It probably has to be the wildest high school football entrance I've ever seen. This is like NFL style entrance.
High school entrance.
We're gonna play this for you guys here for real quick. It's about a minute video, maybe a minute and a half.
Showing a blank screen only. Hey, it's showing up blank on my screen, nigga.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right, let's try it again. Let's try it one more time. One more time. All right.
That's blank. You
Okay.
just post it on our Facebook profile. I'm sure
Yeah,
you'll see.
we'll put it up there. We'll put it up there. And if I have to, I'll share the screen and do it that way. I don't know why it's not showing up this way. I know it's going to give us problems when we do this for helmet stickers, but let me remove that. Okay. So we'll put it up in a bit. Anyways, let's jump on to topic number 3 before we jump into our recaps. And this was a surprise, and it was a surprise to you when we talked about it before the show. Teloso Midway secures a playoff spot last week by beating Hidalgo.
Yep.
This was the shocker, right? So this first time in 13 years they've made the playoffs. Fifth, counting this year, the 5th playoff appearance since 1948.
See, I had no idea they had
Five,
that. Of,
5 times they've made the playoffs since 1948.
see, I had no idea it was that bad.
That is nuts, dude. I hadn't either. You know, I knew they had trouble beating Cal Allen, this, and that. You heard all these stories, right?
Yeah.
Campbell being at Cal Allen. It's the last time that Teloso Midway beat Cal Allen when he was there and whatnot. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. We need to ask him that and see if that's true, because you know how all these rumors start. But yeah, I thought that was pretty neat. So congratulations, Teloso Midway, on jumping into the playoffs. And I think they're there in the 3rd seed, so they don't get too bad of a draw, but we'll talk about that later. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our recap. We didn't have a whole lot of games to recap from last week. There wasn't
not
a whole lot of things that stuck out. Miller bounced back from their loss to to Veterans Memorial. They took out Victoria East 41-18.
Second place, they clinched the 2nd spot in that district moving forward.
So for them, they got the number 2 seed, Victoria East. Seeding game this week in the Battle of the Boot against Victoria West. That's going to determine who goes 3 and 4, right? And that's a crucial one, right? Because it could put you in a pretty bad bracket if you're the number 4 spot.
Definitely, you need the 3 spot to survive a little bit longer.
Yep. Not a whole lot to report from that one. Miller got off to a very fast start. One of the things that I did see, though, and I thought he had a touchdown, but I saw Agent Zero catching a couple passes in that game.
Yeah. They moved Jaden out to receiver, I think, for a little bit. He played quarterback and caught some balls. So yeah, they're kind of working him around a little bit. So that was nice to see. And I mean, they put up 500 yards against Victoria West. You know, I mean, it's just one of those things, man. It continues to roll for them, and I think they're going to be poised to make a pretty nice playoff run as we move forward.
I think so, man. I think so. And again, we'll talk about those playoff scenarios there at the end of the show. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on what happened this past week. I think most of our time is going to be spent on playoffs, right? Just because of the amount that we've got going on, maybe some seeding stuff in a little bit. And then another game of interest last week, San Diego and Rio Hondo. San Diego squeaks out a victory in that one, 21-14. And that creates a big jumble in that district race as far as who's going to go where and what seeds. Seeds won't be decided until Friday night.
Yeah.
In that game. And we'll talk about that a little more here at the end of the show. But do you got anything to add on that one?
No, there wasn't. It was kind of abysmal stats. There wasn't a whole lot going on there. Just noted that they did beat San Diego, or they did beat Rio Hondo. Which does that put them in foul back in the 3-way with Lyford now?
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that there at the end. I've got the doomsday scenario there.
I had a question going on there with that one, so we'll move on to that one.
As Lynn called it, it's about as lengthy as the Warren Commission about how that playoff scenario is gonna unfold. But the week, so we had one surprise this week, and it's not the surprise of the win, and this is a repeat offender here in the surprises, and that's Veterans Memorial versus Victoria East. Vets takes that one 26-21. Here's my question to you: which is the real Vets team? Is it the one that narrowly lost to New Braunfels Canyon after like 5 turnovers by 1 point, who's 8-1, by the way, who lost to an 8-1 Smithson Valley team? Are they that team and the team that beat Miller, or the team that struggled by Carroll and this Victoria team? What is Veterans Memorial?
I think they just play up to I think they play to their opponent. Honestly, at this point, if you look at them, that's the easiest way to describe them, is they play to their opponent. I don't know. I'm not sure. they're like I said, they're a big question mark moving forward in the playoffs, especially with some of the Valley teams that we have coming up, because it's like, well, I mean, what are they going to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
and I get that, right? I get not getting up for an opponent. It's hard, right? It's especially at the high school level. It's hard, right? A game that you're supposed to dominate, a game that you're supposed to win. It's hard, but man, that's not going to bode well for the playoffs, right? Because it is the playoffs, and Robbie Chavez is going to come on later from San Antonio and talk about these San Antonio teams that these 5A teams will be playing on the first round, and he'll give us a little insight on what to expect. And talking to Robbie this past weekend, he's got a lot to say about these San Antonio teams.
yeah, I
So
think it's kind of funny, man. We've kind of lately been pretty dominant's not the best word for it, but we've handled most San Antonio teams outside of like the Bernies and like the name brands pretty
yeah,
well, right? Almost to the point of like what people would think the Valley is. Like, oh, you see San Antonio Southwest, oh, that's a win. People
yeah,
see a Valley school, oh, that's a win. There's a kind of a newsflash, man. These Valley schools that are coming into this group in this big 5A, they shouldn't be taken lightly. They
no,
play a very good brand of football down there. They got a good size. They made good runs last year in 6A. They should be taken with extreme caution, and you're going to have to play a good, solid game to beat them. And they bring a good fan base, so it's a good brand of football down there. I think the Valley gets a bad look, and I think some of these San Antonio teams on the outer edge and in the inner side of San Antonio have kind of been overlooked. And it's like, why are you overlooking these schools? They're in the playoffs just like we are,
hmm
and if you're going to keep moving on the playoffs, you better bring your A game every single Friday, or else you're going to be packing it up and going home. And that's just the truth of it.
yep. It caught Cal Allen off guard last year, right?
They did.
I mean,
Yep.
it happens. It happens, and it
Lynchburg
could happen
got 'em.
again. So, I mean, obviously, we want all our Coastal Bend schools to do well. So, I hope they become a little more consistent, as the playoffs roll around and we start moving forward. But that was a surprise to me,
Mhm.
and we've got a longtime follower commenter on here that who's a Vets fan and said the same thing. This team is Jekyll and Hyde. I don't know what team's going to show up.
I mean,
Um,
you never do.
yeah, so it's not just us, right? You've got some of the Vets fans that are saying that as well. So, man, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Um, On to our game of the. Well, do you have anything else on that before we go?
No,
Nope.
not really.
Okay. All right. So our game of the week. I did not go to this one. I was out of town. I went to go see the Bernie Somerset game just to get some eyes on that Bernie team. Ingleside versus Orange Grove. Orange Grove, or actually Ingleside took this one 45-21. You were there, right? I picked Orange Grove in this one. You had Ingleside, and I think Rebecca had Ingleside in this one as well. What do you see?
Me
What
and,
did you
me and
see?
Becca, dude, double teamed you on that one.
Yeah.
Um, I think Ingleside's offense looks great. They came out and they performed well. That Orange Grove team, like I said when I was watching the game, they weren't a pushover team. And remember, I'd question marked Orange Grove. I was curious about them this year because like games I picked them to win, they wouldn't do it. And games I was like, okay, they're going to lose. They blew someone out. So they had a lot of good size. There was some really good things going on there with Marky Gonzalez at quarterback, and the vibe there in Orange Grove was nice. Had a really good fan
Mark
turnout for
Mark
both
Mark
sides.
Lopez.
Or Mark Lopez. I mean, I get confused with some of them kids, but anyways, good turnout from both sides. It was Ingleside's explosiveness, right? Is what really kind of because at first, Orange Grove was kind of hanging in there with them and keeping it kind of close, but Jaden Smith and Aiden Jacobson started connecting on a lot of these plays, and Smith busted 4 touchdowns for 10, 59, 45, and 6 yards. And then Jacobson finished with 6 touchdowns as well through the air.
Player of the
So
week
it's
nominee.
just it was just the really for me it was explosiveness. That was my key. That was my big takeaway from Ingleside. And they played with a lot of drive. They were very up the entire game. They never really settled down. Even to the very end, they were fighting hard. So I think it's going to set up a really good matchup with Sinton this week for the district championship. That's huge.
Yeah.
Uh, that's going to be a really good game coming up, and I think it's going to be a matchup of Sinton's defense versus that explosive offense from Ingleside, right?
Yep.
So it's two forces meeting each other. I think it's going to be really really well or really fun to watch.
So how's Ingleside's defense, right? We hear about their offense. How does their defense look?
They were solid, man. They held Orange Grove to 21 points. Orange Grove tried to run the ball on them. They moved it kind of, they consistently moved it here and there. Their secondary was lights out though. Lopez couldn't really get much going. They covered a lot of stuff up. He'd have to try to use his legs. Then they would swarm on him. So they were all over the place, man. They were very, they're a lot. They're getting dogged for a weak schedule and whatnot, but they're really well coached. They make a lot of good plays, and there wasn't a whole lot of penalties from them as well. So it was just I think they're just a really well built team right now, and I think they've gelled really good over the season. So I think they're going to be set up for a good little run here come playoffs. I think you're going to see a really good run out of Ingleside.
Okay, and we'll look at their bracket here at the end of the show, just with everybody else's. So, unless you got anything else, we will jump into our next segment. High school and youth coaches, let 97 Sports Promotion handle your helmet needs by outfitting your helmets with their premium 3M 20 mil helmet decals. From the classic looks to the modern chrome and metallic flake to the new ghost printed decals, they can even help you with a custom design if you're looking for something new. 97 is also your go-to for mini helmets that they've specialized in since 2006. They are perfect for fundraisers, end-of-season awards, banquet gifts, Player of the Week awards. So if you're ready, give 97 Sports Promotion a try for your next helmet makeover or your mini helmet needs. Thanks again to Doug Carter over at 97 Sports Promotions for taking care of this. If you guys are new to the show, this is our kind of mini player of the week, I guess. I don't know. What would you call it, Justin? Player of the game kind of thing or something?
Yeah, it's just, man, I don't know. It's helmet stickers, right? It's for the fun of it. We get to pick it versus the fans getting to pick it. You never know. Kids send in highlights for us, and if we like it, we like it, and you get your sticker. I think Jaden Smith got one of the stickers already for me at the game the other day. I thought he had a really outstanding performance with 4. The week prior, I gave it to Jacobson. So yeah, it's just something fun to do, and I like it because we get to pick it versus just the fans getting to pick it.
Okay, well, let me know if we have the same problem again. I'm going to bring it up, so let me know right away. If not, I'll have to share screen and pull it up that way.
Okay.
So here is our helmet sticker.
The first quarter.
There you go.
Dubose split out to the left. High formation, Gabriel Juarez.
And we've seen Dubose make a lot of key plays for the
And Gabe was having such a good year.
Dude, the Caller Time just put a thing out about him today, and man, he put up his stats up for the season right now. He's having a phenomenal year. If this kid doesn't make All-State this year, it's rigged, right? I mean, it's definitely rigged.
No doubt. As a junior too, keep that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, so we got a Valley submission this week finally, right? From the boogeymen down south, Edinburgh Vela. So this is their stud running back. He's also a junior this year. Should have over 1,000 yards after this game on the season.
Well, Polly.
Yep. Renee Martinez, another Elite Tank Solutions Player of the Week nominee, had a phenomenal week.
That is a heck of a week. 314 yards, 5 TDs. Marky Gonzalez's boy.
Yep. Foul is in the house. Marky just checked in here.
Yep.
And the kid, both these guys were down on a visit for Rice this past weekend. This guy's got a 4.1 GPA. I mean, they don't take anybody to those Rice visits, right? Rice has very high academic standards. And then here's our guy, Houston Christian University commit, right? Cutter Stewart, 375 passing yards, 6 touchdowns.
And still slinging it.
Yep. So 375, that's got him inside the top 20 right now as far as career passing yards.
Has to, right?
No, it does. It does, because he was right on the outside of bordering. He should probably be 19 right now. If he has another game like this, it could put him about the 17 or 16.
And then you get the playoff run. That's correct. Gonzalez.
And Marky Gonzalez here, yep. They did a lot on the ground this week with Renee. We're big and foul. We're very big and foul. Big foul.
Man, Arlington Heights has been throwing in some highlights to us.
Oh, big time, man, dude! I want to go to a game. I want to see Six Man live.
Andy Martinez from work goes to these games. Well, actually, he went to the Annapolis one. He said he went to this Arlington Heights game.
Oh, they actually mercy ruled Arlington Heights this past week from the highlights from this game. I think they called it at the half.
It was the other way around, I think.
I don't think so.
No?
No, let me check the
Maybe
message
Andy had
again
his
real quick.
info wrong on that for me. I don't know. Oh, there you go. Playoffs next Friday for Arlington.
Yeah, but I think they would have got in anyways. But yeah, it's Arlington Heights 56, Annapolis 7. The game was over at the halftime due to 45-point mercy rule.
Oh, wow.
Leroy Rodriguez, man, you know,
He came on strong,
dude, big time. And I had this conversation on Twitter a couple weeks ago. I wish this guy had another year here, because I think their stats on Max Preps aren't very accurate. So I wonder what he did last year. I think a lot of it was overshadowed by the season they had last year.
Yeah.
And now that they're winning this season, I think that obviously you're seeing why, right?
Yeah.
And I wish we could have seen a little more of this guy.
For sure. Solid year, man.
Yeah. He's over 1,000 yards for the season. I think 17
he was
touchdowns.
a big time part of why they had the success this year they did have.
Yeah.
So, it's nice seeing Carroll starting getting some wins again. I like seeing that. I do.
And he was the Caller Times Athlete of the Week this week. I think that was announced today. So congratulations, Leroy.
Long line of good running backs in that Carroll.
Oh, look at that. November 11th at 7 on Haven. That's right in our neighborhoods, bud. You'll be able to watch that
Is
from
it really?
9.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So that not a whole lot of submissions this week. Whole lot of stuff going on. I think maybe some folks are getting checked out just because the season's almost over. I'm only going to give out one this week just because the amount, maybe 2. We'll see. I got a lot of stickers left, man.
Carrying the playoffs carrying next week. Whatever.
Yeah, so we got one more week of the regular season, which is going to be this week, week 11. So you still get a chance to put in your submission for your helmet stickers, and it'll be a little weird if you. I don't know. We got to do something to figure out for the seniors that can't wear them. As if it was their last game of the season. We'll figure something out. But who do you got, Spud?
Well, I gave one out at the game, like I said, to Jaden Smith, and I think this week I'm going to go ahead and give this one to. I'm going to go ahead and give this to Renee out of foul. Huge game.
Big game, big time.
325,
dude.
5 TDs.
Perfect time to do that, dude. Right? Because that's a
right in the
couple
playoffs.
300 yards games you've had.
Yep. So we'll get with Renee. That'll be this week's for me as well.
Yeah. And then mine's going to go to Leroy. Leroy had an outstanding game. I can't say anything more than what I've said about him. Yep. He's had a very good season. Like I said, I wish we could have seen a whole lot more of him.
And that's fair.
Yeah. But so congratulations, guys. You're this week's 97 Sports Promotions Helmet Sticker Award winners, and we'll get those out to you starting tomorrow. Right? All right. So, yeah, I know. So that brings us to our games, plural, games of the week. All right. So the first one, we're going to talk about your boys. Gregory Portland versus Flower Bluff.
7-2 GP versus 6-3 FB. Both 4-0 in district. Both been pretty dominant as of late in that district. Well, I think it's pretty obvious where I'm going with this one this week. The hat says it all. I don't have to say much. But just looking at them up front, right? I'm going to highlight some things for people real quick. Portland's GP's averaging 44.
Yeah, don't piss off the Gregorians.
44 points per game. They're allowing 15 points per game. FB on the other end is allowing 37 points per game, averaging 37 points per game and allowing 18 points per game. The losses for GP was Cal Allen Bernie, which is identical to Flower Bluff, Cal Allen Bernie, with the exception Flower Bluff also lost one to Alice in a close game, 21-20, which if you look at Alice, they were having a really good season. So it's kind of hard to gauge that. I want to say that was still kind of when Cutter wasn't playing like he is right now. But just looking at these games, dude, it could go either way though. FB brings a traditional, very strong, solid team, pretty heavy on the defensive front because Coach Steinbrook's background, I want to say, is off of the defense. And I feel like they relied on that a little bit more this year, having such a young offense that people have brought out to. And then on the other end, we've lit it up. GP's lit it up pretty good offensively, and defensively. There's been some spots I think where there could have been some improvement. Secondary being a little holy sometimes, and that Bernie game. It seemed like we could never get off the field on third down when I was watching it on the rerun, which kind of led to the big blowout to them. But a couple plays on defense, and it could have been a different game there. So I'm going GP here. I'm going to be the homer. Always am. Loser has a tough road come playoffs, though. Tough road come playoffs.
Big time.
You lose this game, you're looking at Alamo Heights second round, Liberty Hill fourth round.
Yeah.
Right?
Third, fourth round.
And then, if you somehow survive that gauntlet, then you may get a chance to rematch with the winner of this game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a good game because if you go back 08, 09, this was very similar. We had back-to-back years of playing each other in the playoffs in the second round. We weren't in the same district, and those both were really good games. Last year's playoff game was a really good game. Came down to a field goal. So I think you're going to see – I think the possibilities to see something similar to that coming into tomorrow's game. I think it's going to be a tough fought game. I think, but it's a nice rivalry. This is definitely. I think this has turned into like a pretty good little rivalry between the two. So GP's finally getting back to the winning ways the last couple of years, the last 2 years now, and Flower Bluff's kind of been there. So a lot of experience from the GP side from that team last year, and then Flower Bluff is a little bit young, but they bring a good pedigree. So I'm going GP here. I'm going to be favorable to my Cats.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to go with GP as well. This is kind of a mirror situation of what happened last year, right? The district championship came down to these two teams, and they met deep in the playoffs, and they split it, right? So I don't know, man. Just like Sergio says, and we've said it all along, right? Flower Bluff has a young team. They played Bernie, probably the closest anybody's played Bernie all season. But I think at the same time, they're breaking in a sophomore quarterback. Bernie was at the time, and because that kid's a sophomore as well, and they've both gotten better as the season's gone on. They've lost to the same opponents this season, minus Alice. You add Alice into the Flower Bluff equation. But
out by Cal, I didn't understand how they got blown out so bad by Cal Allen in that game.
Yeah, I think again, it's just
I haven't seen Flower Bluff in person.
It's just learning. It's just learning. It was close up until the half, and then Cal Allen did their Cal Allen thing, right? I mean, they do what they do. They make their adjustments, and I think the defensive secondary stepped up a little bit, started making him make some bad throws. And it just went with it that way. But I'm with you. I've got GP in this one as well. And so does Rebecca. So it's a sweep on this one. It's GP all across the board for this one. It was close, Sergio. It was close. And then they did their thing. Our other game of the week, Sitton versus Ingleside. And we kind of touched on this one a little bit. This one is Ingleside, 6-3 Sitton versus 9-1 Ingleside. The common district opponents in this one, they both had Raymondville. They both won blowouts of that Raymondville team. And then Rockport Fulton. Sitton handedly took care of Rockport Fulton. Ingleside lost in, I think, overtime. Was it overtime or right before overtime? So
it was like right before overtime. They lost by 2 scores, but it was they might have lost by 1. Either way, dude, it was like they were down 2 scores with like 2 minutes to go and couldn't.
It was onside kick or something in Flower Bluff or Rockport Fulton kind of added that extra score there at the end. Just you've kind of touched it already, right? It's going to be the defense versus the offense in this one. I think Sitton's doing just enough on offense now that they're finally getting it together at the right time, right? This is when you want everything to start clicking. I think the defense is going to make the difference. And I was at the season started, I said, Ingleside district championship this year, just based off the way Sitton was performing at the beginning of the season. Yeah. I'm gonna have to backtrack on that. I think Sitton's gonna take this one.
I mean, that's a fair take, and honestly, I think you are right in the fact that I do think Sitton's offense is looking better they're doing enough now. Braden Brown seems to finally kind of be in control of that offense, finally healthy. And then, the Sinton defense has been really good all year. So I think there is room there that Sinton could win this game. But I'm going to stick with the Mustangs, man. They've been hot all year. I think the defense is better than what people are giving them credit for. And I think the offense is as advertised, and it's going to stay explosive. And I'm going to take the Mustangs over the Pirates this year for the DC. And I think it's going to be a very entertaining game over there in Sinton.
Yeah, and Rebecca has got the Mustangs as well. So I may be the odd man out on this one, and I may end up losing this one, but we'll see. That's who I think. That's how I feel it's going to shake out.
She's been pretty hot lately.
Yeah, dude. I mean, she's kicking our ass.
Always.
You know, I don't know. Justin's going to be at the GP game, obviously, right? With intern Ace. And I don't know where
the whole family out there.
I don't know where I'm going to go yet. I don't know what game I want to go to. They're both very good games. You know, I was talking to Kat earlier, and Kat, you know, there's a lot of games. Well, not a lot in the state. There's a lot of games being moved to Thursday because of weather. And,
it seems like a lot.
Taft and George West moved their game to Thursday at the request of George West. I don't know why. I don't know if they expected weather. It's not supposed to rain. So she'll be covering the Taft game Thursday night, and she's going to be at Ingleside. She asked me where I was going. I was like, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to go. I've never been to a GP game in years. Honestly, you know when the last time I went to a GP game was? Last time, not up and coming. Last time was when QB1 was Brian Romero. That was the last time I went to a GP game, and that was 1989.
The scenery has changed.
And that was in the Astrodome. Okay, that was still open. That was the place to play. And they got run by Cliff Gross and the A&M Consolidated Tigers. And I remember the Caller Times headline article in that it was cat fight in the dome. And it was bad. Cliff Gross, the future A&M or Texas A&M standout running back there in the late 80s, early 90s. And then the week before that, I saw him play La Máquina there in Ray Atkins in Wildcat Stadium. And it was standing room only, man. I remember that. And that was probably my first GP game. Yeah. So back to back, I went to my first and last GP game. They won on penetrations. Dude, it was wild, man. I mean, I was standing by the fence because it was standing room only. And I saw one of the wildest punts I've ever seen in my life. Ed Couch, GP punted, put Ed Couch on the 1, and I swear to God, the ball bounced and just stopped on the 1 yard line. Did not roll, did not go in. It just stopped on the 1 yard line. And then Ed Couch just went on a 99-yard scoring drive to tie the ball game, and GP advanced on penetrations. For you young folks who don't know what penetrations are, there was no overtime back in the day, and it was whoever got in the opponent's 20 more than the other one did, and that was a penetration. That's how they advanced, and that was a rough year for GP. I think they were like 6-5.
That was the cardiac cat year, no?
That was the cardiac cat year, yeah, where they had a lot of come from behind wins.
They weren't supposed to make that kind of football run like they did in the playoffs. They went 4 rounds deep, was it?
Yep. It was 4 rounds, yeah, state semifinals. And that was Coach Bush's first year there. Coach Bush, who just got, I guess, honored by Alice, being inducted in their Ring of Honor or whatever they call it last week.
His son is now coaching at New Braunfels Canyon.
Who's the coach at New Braunfels Canyon? Yeah,
and he's also apparently has Bruce helping out with that team as well in some form.
Something, right?
There's another ex-Wildcat, Jonathan Nance. I noticed that is coaching the receivers over there. He was a little bit older than me, so it's just there's some GP ties there at New Braunfels Canyon, which I didn't even realize until I started kind of looking at that staff a little more. But yeah, man, I don't know. That's hard because I would love to go see Ingleside and Sinton play as well. But I mean, I'm more red and blue, you know that. Yeah,
Kat told me to go at each one. I go at halftime, but my big thing of that is, what if I miss something? What if they're both tight? You know, and then we'll see. We'll play.
Where's the game tomorrow night with Taft and George West? Is that Taft?
It's in Taft. Yeah, it's in Taft.
I kind of feel like maybe stumbling over to that.
Well, maybe.
Just to check it out. I don't know.
We'll figure it out. We haven't been to a Taft game all year.
I have.
Oh, you have? That is right, against Robstown.
I'm not sure it was there by Cat.
No, I did go to a Taft game. That's right. I went to the back road, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Take it back.
No, you didn't.
I did. I was there. No, we were working.
We were working.
That's right.
You
That's right.
hand the trophy out to Taft.
Yeah, hand the trophy out of Taft. Yeah.
That's what it
Okay.
was.
So before we've got Robbie Chavez, all San Antonio, waiting in the waiting room here for us. Before we jump to Robbie, we've got a little announcement to make, right? Our Elite Tank Solutions Player of the Week. This one was actually very close. Up until today, you know, we put these polls out, and we go till 3:00 the day of show day, which is today. So we cut it off at 3:00, and it was actually one on both polls today. And our winner is, let me share screen here. Entire screen. Aiden Jacobson.
There it is.
Ingleside Mustangs, QB1. Had an outstanding week. You saw it.
Yep.
There in
Continuing
person.
on,
Man, I mean, it seems like every week he's put up a 400-yard passing game. Every week.
I'm telling you, man, the offense is explosive. He's got some playmakers, and he's throwing some really nice passes out there to his guys. He's getting his guys that action. So yeah, dude, he's well deserving of that award right there. And I had a hard time picking between him and Jaden on my little there you go. There's the mini helmet. On my helmet sticker in person the other day, but he had just gotten the helmet sticker from the week prior for me. So I was like, you know what? Jaden put up heck of numbers. I gotta go with Jaden. So yeah. Those are sweet, dude.
Yeah, they came out really good. Thank you to Elite Tank Solutions.
It's one of these boys.
Thank you to Elite Tank Solutions for picking up the tab on that and supporting the show, and Coastal Bend athletes. And thank you, Doug, at 97 Sports Promotions for getting it done really quick, very quick turnaround, and doing a very good job, man. You guys are going to love these when we get them in person. Coach Ham, David, we'll get with you guys next week to figure out when we can get out there to do it. We'll start delivering some this week, hopefully. If not, we'll have to push them all to next week. But we're trying to map out the logistics on where we needed to go. We've got seems like they're all in a cluster, right? So we can knock some out in this area, some out in this area. But it is what it is. We'll figure it out. We'll get with you guys. So let's go ahead and jump into our playoff outlook. And with that, we are going to bring in
Mr. Robbie
Roberto Chavez, who's actually on scene right now. He's at a game.
Yeah, I'm at halftime of a basketball game right now. So I was able to fit in some time here to get on the podcast. So
yeah, thanks, Rob. We appreciate it, man. We're not going to take too much of your time.
No,
he does not sleep, man. I mean, if you see our Twitter account or our Facebook account, this guy's posting at 3 or 4 in the morning, and then it's dead for like 20 minutes and starts up again at 5. So
24/7.
Caffeine and speed is this guy's diet, right?
Right.
I'm kidding about the speed. I'm kidding. All right, so we brought Robbie, and Robbie is he's been on the show, man. What was it, 4 or 5 weeks ago? I think. Actually, we'll talk about Bernie Flower Bluff. I think is when we had you on. So man, that was
we had him on for Somerset.
Yeah, Somerset Beeville.
Okay, that's when it was, and then we talked about Bernie Flower Bluff as well. So now we're bringing you on to talk about Somerset again in a roundabout way, right? So the playoff outlook for this week for the Coastal Bend in Region 4, you know, in our district right now. The first one we got is San Antonio Southside versus Victoria East or West, depending on what happens on Friday night in that seeding game, right? So the battle of the boot loser will get this one. San Antonio Southside, if you saw, what is it, the 4th district championship in school history, which have all occurred under Coach Locke, right? Essentially in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yes.
And that tweet I sent out, they were projected 5th by the experts, right? To finish 5th in the district, and they take the district championship with a roster of 34 kids.
What is the deal with that?
In 5A D1. You know, they're essentially playing Ironman football at 5A D1. And Robbie and I, we were at the Bernie game last week. We had a lengthy discussion on this, and I like Coach Locke's outlook on a bunch of stuff as far as how you're going to build that team, right?
Yes, for sure.
So what can you tell? So let's jump on these. So it's CC Vets versus Medina Valley, Corpus Christi Miller versus San Antonio Southwest, and San Antonio or Southwest Legacy, and San Antonio Southwest versus Victoria West or East, the winner of the Battle of the Boot. So let's start with Southside. I mean, what can you tell us about Southside?
So Southside's 8-1. They play Eagle Pass win on Friday. It looks like they will go to 9-1. What I can say about Southside is same old tough Southside. Last year, you know, they kind of fell off a bit. Was the only real year they fell off a bit because they had a ton of injuries. I mean a ton on defense and offense. So this year they're relatively injury free. And this team, you know, me and Jake had talked about it. This is a team, you know, that they do what they do well. They run the ball extremely well. Coach Locke says this is his best offensive line he's ever had, which is incredible considering that this team went into the Coastal Bend district and had success up there. Now, I wouldn't say they pass as great as they used to, but with this offensive line and a multitude of running backs, including the quarterback, this team is able to move the ball down the field at a snail's pace and kind of get what they want. They're extremely good at draining the clock. We're talking about a team that on an offensive drive is capable of taking 6 or 7 minutes off the clock. And that is going to be essential when you play against teams that might be a little bigger or have more speed than you, or especially have an explosive offense. So these guys are built to tangle. They play, a lot of players do play both ways, but these guys are in tremendous shape. You know, you can ask Coach Locke, you know, about when he's playing against a team that's bigger than him on the front line, and he'll say easily, well, we're in better shape than they are. So at the beginning of the game, they might do really well, but as this goes on, you're going to have to hang with them in the game over the duration of time. I make the example, I always like comparing it like boxing. Like, you know, you got a Mike Tyson. If you can survive Mike Tyson's blow and get Mike Tyson into the later rounds, he's going to be in trouble. And Southside is a team a lot like that. There may be teams that have more talent overall, but they will punch you, and then they will say, can you go 4 quarters with us into the final 5 minutes?
That's fair. I mean, that's good. That's a really good assessment of them. I like that. That's good, Robbie.
And you know, the Victoria schools aren't really in our wheelhouse, right? So we can't really. They're Jekyll and Hyde, just like it seems like every year these Victoria schools are. They're this week they're up here. Where's my hand? There it is. We're up here one week, down here the next week, right? So I mean, it's very hard to gauge. So
I think Southside can get them.
That's what I was going to say. I'm going to stick with Southside on this one just because of how we've seen them play. They're very consistent, right? They're not up and down. They're not. You don't know. You always know what team's going to show up based on what we've seen in the past. And it's not like these. Well, we'll see. You know. Yeah, I'm going to go with that one. How much do you know about Medina Valley right now?
I know some about Medina Valley. They got a freshman quarterback, of course.
Wow.
He was basically like the 3rd or 4th string coming into the season. Well, really not at all. I mean, they had some injuries. He got in there. He can pass really well under pressure for a guy that's just a freshman that was playing middle school ball last year, and he's kind of gotten better. You know, Medina Valley is an interesting team. Medina Valley has quite a bit of talent on their team. As a matter of fact, they have some of the most talent in the district. However, like I said, with staff changes happening right before the season and then injuries, they've kind of clawed their way back into this position. Now they're playing Laredo Figueroa actually tomorrow night in a road game. And of course, Figueroa's had a great season. But Medina Valley might just be able to pull it off. And if MB wins that game, they're in. And then, like I said, you would have, if they didn't win that game, you would have Figueroa in the game, which I know quite a bit about Figueroa as well. They play tough as well. But right now, it seems that some people are favoring Medina Valley to get in the playoffs. I will say they run a good offense. They can get the ball down on the field. They got some speed. They will come at you. As a matter of fact, you know, Southside got up on them 27-6 in a game, and Medina Valley roared back and closed that gap rather quickly before Southside pulled away again in the 4th quarter. So they're a young team. They can play, and, you know, this district should not be underestimated, though. I would not underestimate this district at all.
What about Legacy, Robbie? Last year, Legacy had that heck of a run, and then they finally ran into GP. What was that, round 2, round 3? And then what are they bringing back this year?
So Legacy, it does not have a lot of players back at all. As a matter of fact, they are full. They're going to be a threat in the future. They got ton of sophomores and a ton of juniors on that team. I mean, just all over that team. They got talent, but like I said, they're very young. I think a lot of people were surprised in the opener. They actually lost to Burbank and then kind of righted the ship. They're a team that was trailing Medina Valley and got like 2 or 3 onside kicks to come back and beat Medina Valley in the 4th quarter in a very close game. That's the game that's got Medina Valley on edge now because of that game. But Legacy, they play tough. They run the ball well. They drain the clock themselves, and they can pass. They're a quality team, but they're just very young. So I'm not sure what you're going to get out of them. And remember, they play this week in the Fire and Armor Bowl with Southwest, their rivalry game coming up. So that should be a really good game as well.
I like that name. It's the Dragons and the Titans, right? Or what? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty neat.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what about Southwest? What does Southwest bring? Who do you favor in that matchup?
You know, it's a close game. I would favor Southwest just because of their tradition. the history they got, even though legacy is somewhat part of that. But I believe Southwest overall has a resume that at this moment looks a little bit better than Legacy's. But like I said, it's a rivalry game, just like y'all were talking about East and West. You don't know. I mean, these guys are young, but they know Southwest really well. You know, they got a lot of friends over there, so you don't know if they're going to get up for this game. I will say Southwest is a good quarterback, PJ Ramos, Brayan, the running back. This is another team, and I tell people, do not underestimate Southwest either. Southwest is another team that is capable of taking 5, 6, 7 minutes off the clock on a drive. And if you remember, just 2 or 3 years ago, Southwest got in the playoffs and went 3 rounds deep before they lost to Vets Memorial on a team that didn't have a lot of experience itself. So I would not underestimate the district, especially the first 2 seeds. Like, you know, Southwest, if they get a win on Friday, they're going to be 7-3 overall. And, you know, one of their games, the first opener of the year, they played Lockhart really close. Lockhart needed a lot of effort to win that game 27-20. And you're talking about the same Lockhart that lost to San Antonio Vets Memorial by a touchdown and had a 28-14 game with Liberty Hill with about 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So, you know, me and Jake were talking, it's a weird year. It's a strange year. You look at scores and you try to not scoreboard too much. But, you know, some of these teams in the Southside Southwest District, even though they're playing Laredo teams, these are some good teams. They punch you in the mouth. They got solid offensive and defensive lines, and they can drain the clock on you.
That's a solid take on it.
And that's key.
I mean,
Against the teams that we've got going against these teams who have the capability of scoring very fast. I mean, you really that's what they need to do is keep the ball away from your Vets Memorial, especially your Miller team, right? The less you have that offense on the field, the better from an opponent standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know from a history watching Southside, they are, and even Southwest themselves, these teams like to grind it out. They can drain the clock, and I think that this is going to pose a problem for teams in the playoffs. You know, when your offense can't get on the field for 5, you know, there was a game this year where Southside had the ball at about the 30-yard line, and these guys ran about 6 minutes and 20 seconds off the clock from the 30 inward. They had to convert about 3 4th downs, but they drain that clock. And for an offense, if you're used to getting in a rhythm and going on the field really quick, to have to sit that long, you know, that 6 minutes of game time, what is that actual time, you know, on the field? And then, you know, we talk about this too, you know, you get a wet field on a Friday night in the opening round, the first or second round of the playoffs. And the other night I was at Kerrville, Tybee, and San Antonio Vets Memorial. Kerrville Tybee was a huge underdog, but it started raining and getting misty in that game, and that ball started slipping. And let me tell you what, that's why the playoffs are so crazy, because you just don't know. You get a spread team that all of a sudden can't hold on to the ball, and it throws the timing off, and all of a sudden a high seed is in trouble very quickly.
Yeah, I mean I think that's kind of the approach Cal Allen's had in the past. Before we look at them before this onslaught of throwing they've done this year, is that was the whole thing. That's the name of the game, ball control with them, and they would chew up the clock and kind of score methodically on you. It's just the only problem you run into is, which I'm not sure, you know, Southwest or Legacy might have a little more speed and tempo to score when need to, but that was usually the killer for Cal Allen, is you fall down 2 scores to a team with a lot of speed and talent, and it's just like
you're in trouble.
Now you're working against yourself. But no, I mean, if you want to beat Miller, that's how you do it. You keep the offense off the field. That's your best hope right there.
Yeah. And,
well,
you know,
we talk about that, right? And like, you know, remember a couple years ago, what was it, like 3 years ago, when Miller was like killing everybody, and in the first round they played against who? They played against Brownsville. I forget, but it was the 4th seed from Brownsville, I believe, area, and that 4th seed took them to the brink. I mean, Miller almost got ousted in the first round.
Who was that? Oh, Brownsville Pace.
Brownsville Pace was a play away from knocking Miller out of the playoffs. So, you know, playoffs are crazy, you know, and like I said, you got cool fronts coming in this time of year. I don't know about y'all's area, but in our area, we're having a lot of games rescheduled to Thursday because of the weather. So you can already see how these cold fronts are bringing rain and stuff at the time of the year when the playoffs are about to start. And a lot of these teams, you know, like I said, a lot of spread teams, you just throw a little water on the ball, and it doesn't mean it's going to stop them totally. But if you mess with the timing a bit, it hurts offenses. So, you know, it's going to be exciting.
And you got Joe Gomez just chiming in. That was a good cold and rainy night, that game against that. So it affects your spread offenses, your high tempo offenses, you know, and who does it benefit? The grind them out, run on the clock. Remember, Pace had that big quarterback. He went on to play baseball.
Yes.
but I mean, he was a one-man wrecking ball that year. Now that I'm remembering,
Yeah, it was.
so I mean, it is different, right, Joe? So I mean, yeah, he says that Southwest tried that with Miller in the Alamo Dome, right? A controlled environment and lost 56-7. Different ball game,
Yes.
different teams, Joe. That was an Andrew Body led team, full of stars.
100% correct.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how things shake out and where these games are going to take place, right? Obviously, everybody wants the dome, right? Everybody's going to play in the San Antonio area. They want the dome, but from what I read on the Caller Times, Miller and Vet should be hosting, so that's an outdoor game, right? Unless they're going to put a dome over Buck Stadium between now and next week. So it'll definitely be interesting. The weather's the great equalizer, right? So, Robbie, I think that's really all we got you for right now. We're going to jump into some Valley stuff. So if you need to go, man, you got to go. Thanks for jumping on, man.
Hang on. What do you think about Alamo Heights?
Alamo Heights. I'm actually debating covering Alamo Heights tomorrow. And I might be covering them tomorrow. Alamo Heights is a really good team. They're in a district, obviously, where they're winning a lot of games big. So people have kind of made comments about Alamo Heights is not that great. You know, they're just playing against a lot of teams that aren't as great as them. But I argue different. I argue a little different, though. Alamo Heights has a strong team. They were leading Liberty Hill at halftime last year in the playoffs. This is a solid team. Rhett Anderson, to me, is one of the best receivers in the state. You know, he often does not get talked about a lot, but they got a solid offensive line. They play really well. They got a lot. And I mean, they got a lot of weapons. I don't know if y'all have seen Michael Terry. He's just a sophomore at Heights. He comes in and plays quarterback, running back, wide receiver. He can do all kinds of things. This Alamo Heights team is really good. You haven't heard a lot about them because in, you know, the district which they're in and what's going on there. But this team is good. Alamo Heights has a solid team. And if you look, they'd probably be undefeated if it wasn't for the incident they had in the offseason that led them to not having players against Seguin in the only game they lost this year. So they really should probably be 10-0.
Yeah, they should be. And yeah, so that was the
and they always have a really good pedigree. They have a lot of tradition. GP's had a lot of run-ins with Alamo Heights in the past.
Mm-hmm.
That's the former stomping grounds of our guy, Jeff Dubroff, right?
Oh yeah, where's Jeff at?
Where's Jeff?
Hey, but what's interesting though is looking at the cross district matchups. I'd seen, Jake, you had also mentioned something about like Harlandale. Harlandale's looking to finish 7-3. They're playing against McCullum this Saturday in the Frontier Bowl, one of the biggest rivalry games on my side of town. And Harlandale's looking to go to 7-3. It's possible that they get a rematch with Vets Memorial, San Antonio Vets Memorial, who they played in the opening game and lost 52-6. So I'm not sure James People and those guys are the guys they want to run into. But what is interesting is, real quick, before I go, those districts, you know, there's a chance Kerrville-Tybee could play Alamo Heights in the first round as well. They need to win. If they win on Friday night, they'll be the 2 seed, so they're good. But if they lose against Lockhart, there's a chance Heights could play Kerrville-Tybee. And you never know how a game, even though Heights is really good, you know, Tybee and Heights know each other well. That would be a 1 seed versus a 4. And Tybee being at the 4 seed is really interesting because Tybee has a lot of talent on that team. I witnessed it the other night.
You know, I was looking at Tybee because that's what they're projected to play right now is Tybee and Alamo Heights. That's a projection right now. And Kerrville's 5-4, but they lost to Davenport, they lost to Fredericksburg, they lost to Liberty Hill, and they lost to Bastrop. Those, with the exception of Liberty Hill, were all 3-point losses. So they were in all those games. So don't sleep on a record, right? That doesn't mean anything. So I mean, they can.
If Tybee wins on Friday, Tyvee's actually going to be the 2 seed and host a home playoff game. But if they lose, they're going to slide to number 4 and then go on the road to probably play Heights in round 1.
Mm-hmm. And I guess they've got them projected to lose because that's who they've got them playing is Heights
now.
And you know, Heights is just like you said, 8-1, lost to Seguin. And Seguin had some quality losses as well. Lost to New Braunfels Canyon, and San Antonio Wagner, who's actually putting on a pretty good year this year, considering where they were last year, the year before.
For sure.
So I think we had one more. It's Liberty Hill, dude. I mean,
I'm just curious.
They're killing everybody. The only team they lost to was Hutto, and Hutto's a 6A program, right?
Yeah,
Hutto's 5-4, but it's a 6A program. They're in a tough district with Pflugerville Weiss. Who else are they in that district with? Manor, maybe. So I mean, it's they lost to a 6A team, right? Essentially, right? Before we go, one more. Let's talk Bernie Somerset real quick before you go, because we're going to see that Bernie team, and we were there at that Somerset game.
Yes.
My take on that, and I kind of told Justin about it, and people could call me a dumbass. I didn't see anything special out of Bernie for being a number 4, number 5 ranked team in the state right now. They run the spread. They run the spread very well. Jackson Blaze at quarterback, who's a sophomore, he throws a very good ball, plays very good for a sophomore. They could not run the ball against Somerset. Somerset's secondary suspect, right? One of the things that caught my eye in that game is that I didn't see 7 on the field at all for Somerset, who's probably their game breaker, right? He's all their speed. So I was kind of scratching my head at that a little bit. Why aren't they getting your playmakers on the field? Why aren't you getting them the ball? But not to take too much away from Bernie, but I mean, I didn't see a number 4 ranked team on the field that day.
Well, I think Bernie, they're 9-0 for the first time in school history. They did move up to number 3 in the rankings. There's a lot of people that are really big time behind Bernie. I still do think Bernie is a good team, but Josiah Lugo, which is Somerset's backup running back, he had 170 yards rushing on Bernie's defense, and 170 yards rushing. That is a lot of yards for Somerset to have put up, especially with a second string running back on a team like Bernie. So my question is if Bernie were to run into somebody like a Cal Allen or a heavy run offense, how would they do with that run game? Because 170 yards behind Lugo is a lot. And, Somerset got into the 25 of Bernie a couple times. They just could not, finish. So, I think there is the jury is still out on, Bernie about how far they can go, especially if a team with a great run game punches them in the mouth. So I think there's still a lot left to be seen there from Bernie, even though, they are a quality team. When we're speaking about them, we're speaking on how far they can go, right? Like, who can they beat in the playoffs? So I guess, we're going to see here pretty soon.
Justin, you got anything else for Rob before we got to let him go?
No, man, that's it. I'll let him get back to that basketball game. We kept.
All right, Rob. Hey, man, thanks for checking in, man. I know it was short notice. It was yesterday, and we're kind of throwing everything at you now, man, but you're doing great for on the fly. I'll tell you what.
Hey, thanks. But let's for sure a playoff show next week. I'll be available if y'all want to do something.
Always.
Oh, hey, it's going to be a daytime show. We're working nights, so that's another thing, folks. If you're going to be watching next week's the daytime show, we're on nights.
That might be better for me. All right, guys.
Okay, man. We'll see you later, Rob. Thanks for checking in.
All right, take care.
Yeah, right, he's a vampire. Yeah.
All right, guys. Bye.
Robbie Chavez, man, from Robbie CTV. Guy is all over the place, man. He started covering junior high games too, man.
I can't believe we know Robbie for 5 years now. Right?
I know, right? You remember when it started? It started with It started with that season injury late hit against Cal Allen and Somerset or San Antonio. That one game.
Posted in the deep dark forums
where it all came from there. Yeah. So 5AD won some interesting matchups down the line. Round 2. South Side, Victoria East, West could face the Harlingen South McAllen High winner. And then here's where it gets interesting, right? Corpus Christi Vets, Medina Valley could face the Edinburgh Vale of Westaco East winner, right? So there's that one. Your other second round, PSJ North versus Donna. The winner from that one faces the winner of Miller and Southwest Legacy. So right off the bat, if everything shakes out the way it's supposed to, and we can talk that way, we can look ahead. We're not coaches. We're not players. We're allowed to do that, right? Yeah. So you've got that coming down the pipe. And then you've got San Antonio Southwest versus the Victoria East West winner against Brownsville Vets and Nikki Rowe. And Brownsville Vets, that 5A team who's running, I think it's the triple option, I think is what they run. And you Valley guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's some type of option offense. It's not a passing offense, it's a run-based offense. Interesting take. I'm going to give you guys a history lesson here. McAllen Nikki Rowe, named after Colonel Nick Rowe, a McAllen High School grad who was a Green Beret. Spent 5 years as a POW in Vietnam. Escaped, one of 34 POWs in the Vietnam War to escape. Actually, on the day of his execution, he escaped, and that was recovered on New Year's Eve of 1968. He's actually credited with developing the SEER course that all Special Forces Green Berets have to go through. And it's a survival, evasion, resistance, escape course. And he was assassinated in the Philippines in 1989. So yeah, interesting little tidbit there. So there's your history lesson for the day. I thought that was pretty interesting. So Nikki Rowe, that's who they're named after, Colonel Nick Rowe. So you see the winner of that game coming against the San Antonio Southwest Victoria East game. 5AD2, we've kind of hit on that already a little bit, right? You got Flower Bluff versus Roma. Everything shakes out that way, right? You could put GP there, depending on the outcome of Friday night's game. Yeah. I think the winner of this game will take that game easily. I don't think it'll be too much of a hassle, and they'll play that winner of Alamo Heights projected Kerrville Tivy. Then you've got Gregory Portland / Flower Bluff versus Mission Vets against the Burbank Lockhart winner. The Mission Vets team should be a pretty good team to watch. I've always wanted to watch those guys. Coach Gilpin's a pretty big follower of us, and he always brings a pretty good team to the field. I think that was they had that Landry Gilpin team that one year that beat Vets in the semis. Wasn't it the semis?
They beat him in the semis.
The region finals. Region finals. It was the region finals to go to the semis.
Oh yeah, it was the regional finals, right? It was in the Alamo Dome. Yeah, that was when they had David Soto.
Yeah,
that was a tough loss for Vets that year because they were having a heck of a year.
Yep. And then to finish out that bracket, you've got Sherryland versus Edcouch-Elsa or Valley View. The winner of that game on Friday will determine who will get that team, and that's going to be your San Antonio Vets, San Antonio Harlandale winner. And then 4A D1, this is where it gets interesting, right? So you've got Lavernia, who's locked up the district championship and that, and everything else. Everybody's still in play for those last 3 spots. Well, here it comes down to week 11, right? So for Beeville and Port Lavaca Calhoun, a win will make the Sand Crabs the number 2 seed and Beeville the number 3. If Beeville wins and Calhoun loses, the Trojans are the number 2 seed. If Beeville loses, then it will be the 4th seed, and we'll have to rely on points to learn how it gets in. And then Rockport can still make the playoffs with a win against Lavernia and a Beeville win and a Port Lavaca loss. So clear as day?
No.
Yeah.
I tip my cap to the people that actually have to break that down because I
know. Thank you, Lynn
I
Hayward.
started looking at it and I'm just like, yeah, this is the same for me.
I get a headache, man. I tried the other day and I was like, I give up. So thank you, Lynn and the Caller Time staff for putting that together. I totally
Batman, dude.
Yeah. So the other matchups we see potentially Alice against Port Lavaca Calhoun that first round, and they'll take the Canyon Lake and Uvalde winner. Then you got Pleasanton versus Tolosa Midway, who will get the Bernie and Burnett winner. Lavernia versus La Feria, who will get the Somerset and Lampasas winner. And then Cal Allen versus Beeville, who will get the San Antonio Davenport versus Fredericksburg winner. And there's that old foe, Fredericksburg, right? Who took the Cats out last year.
Yep.
Who put a very good season together last year. They're not having too bad of a year this year.
Yeah, they put a really good season together last year. That was a shock to me when Cal Allen dropped that one to Fredericksburg. I was real shocked by that loss last year.
Yep. And I think everybody in the state was kind of surprised by that one.
For sure.
And then you got 4A D2, Raymondville versus Orange Grove. Raymondville, if you bring them up to what playing in the Coastal Bend district this season, they haven't had that great of a year playing these teams from up north. I can see Orange Grove taking that one with no problem. Then they got the winner of Wimberley and San Antonio Youth Men's YMLA. And I didn't realize YMLA was a 4A school.
I didn't either, man. I didn't even know they were in the UIL, to be honest with you. I thought they were like a TAPS association team.
Yeah, and then they beat that foul. They gave foul that first loss, barely squeaked by them. Foul kind of lost that one in the 4th quarter, so that loss makes it look a little better. Then you've got Sinton versus Port Isabel, who haven't really played each other a lot, based on the traditions of those teams in 3A back in the day. So you've got those two lining up, and they'll get the winner of Divine and Gerald. I can see Sinton taking that one. Port Isabel lost to that Raymondville team we just talked about this year. So that was a little bit of a shocker there.
I think that's when they were kind of banged up, though, right?
No, that was like 2 weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. It was recent. And then dependent, that could be flip-flop, right? You could see Ingleside versus Port Isabel, depending who wins. And then you got Ingleside versus Grula, who will face the Bandera versus Lago Vista. If the playoffs were to start today, right, things can change. And then you got Bishop versus West Oso, and they'll face the Navarro versus Pearsall winner.
Which probably what, Navarro?
That's what I would think.
I would think just based off pedigree.
Off tradition, right? And what tradition. You see. And that brings us to 3A D1, which is another.
There's a lot of ifs on that.
There's another soup sandwich here as far as playoffs go. So just before we jump into it, Falfurrias, Lyford, Rio Hondo, and San Diego all come in 3-1 in district. They've all beaten each other. And all 4 of those play each other this week. Falfurrias will take on San Diego, and Lyford will take on Rio Hondo. So if Falfurrias and Lyford win, Falfurrias gets the 1 seed, Lyford gets the 2, San Diego 3, Rio Hondo 4. If Falfurrias and Rio Hondo win, Rio Hondo 1, Falfurrias 2, Lyford 3, San Diego 4. If San Diego and Rio Hondo win, San Diego 1, Rio Hondo 2, Falfurrias 3, Lyford 4. And if San Diego and Lyford win, Lyford, San Diego, Rio Hondo, and Falfurrias. Clear?
Another soup sandwich.
It is a lot. It is
Straight
a
soup.
lot. Man.
Straight soup.
Yeah. So if you project the way they have it projected, right? So Lyford versus Goliad in the first round, they'll take on the Lano Catula winner.
Lando's having a very good year. That'd be the team to pencil.
Okay. Industrial and San Diego versus Jordanton and Blanco. They'll take that winner, which would be interesting, right? If it shakes out, if you've got Industrial getting past San Diego and you get Blanco, that's Coach Dixon's old coach, right? He was the old head coach there at Industrial. So there's that one. Then you got Edno versus Rio Hondo and Hondo versus Marion. And then Falfurrias versus London and Randolph versus Poteet. London's kind of on the outside looking in right now. They're the only one that's got a shot at the postseason in this district. They can get in with a win against Mathis on Friday. If Mathis loses, it's going to be between Mathis, London, and Palacios, and it's a coin flip and all kinds of other stuff. So that gets messy too. So for the easy way, you hope London wins. And then 3AD2, Hebronville versus Natalia. They'll take on the winner of Lexington versus Brazos. Nixon Smiley versus Santa Rosa. They'll take on Tidehaven versus Clifton. Poth versus George West. They'll take the winner of Bowling versus Buffalo. Taft versus Comfort. And they'll take on the winner of Rogers versus Van Vleck. Then you've got go Taft, right? Taft right now, that's probably, man, if they can play the way they've been playing all season.
They have a good chance of making a good run in this playoffs.
Yes, they do. They have a very good chance of winning some ball games and going pretty deep. And then 2AD1, Freer versus Three Rivers. They'll take on the winner of Flatonia and Junction. Shiner versus Santa Maria. We've kind of heard where that game could be hosted right now, so keep your ears open. Masons versus Hearn, and how often do you get a chance to see A&M commit take the field in Dalton Brooks? That'd be well worth the trip to wherever it is. Very near, we hear. Yeah. Very near. And then Refugio versus Ben Bolt. They'll take on the winner of Johnson City and Holland. And Lavia and Ganado. And they'll take on the winner of Thorndale and Stockdale. Stockdale newly moved down from 3A. But that's a mouthful, dude. There's a whole lot going on.
That's a lot
this weekend, and still stuff won't be settled until the games are over this week. I forgot to mention, Robbie, my wife's a very big admirer of your hat. So if you're listening, she likes your hat. I mean, I got yelled at for not including everything that my wife and her friend comment on, so I have to say everything. So Melissa, you said go Hounds. Yay. Okay.
I'm waiting on Becca to chime in. Almost the time she chimes in, I think that's like the signal for you to get off.
Pretty much, or raise a hand or something or something. I think I covered everything I was supposed to cover with her. Guys, do you have anything else, Spud, before we go?
Dude, not much. Really looking forward to this matchup Friday with GP and FB. That's an exciting one. I'm glad I'm off and going to be able to go. Really looking forward to Ingleside and Sinton. I think it's something that, the season's – okay, so the season's winding down, right? And this is something that I think people should kind of, put into perspective a little bit as, this week happens and even some people from last week. And it's a lot of people don't realize that this Friday night is potentially, for a lot of these seniors, the last time they'll ever put on pads, right? Mm-hmm. You played the game. I played the game. It's really hard to beat, in a team sport, the camaraderie that goes on when you're in athletic facilities from 7th grade to really once you play this last game, a lot of times if you're not doing track and stuff, it's kind of over for you. So I think it's something that people should, it's a time to reflect for seniors, soak it up, dude. Just personal perspective, soak it up, enjoy it. It's not the end of the world, but I mean, you're going to think about it when you look back when you're our age, and it's something to take some pride in, man. You made it this far. Whether you've had a winning season or a losing season, you never quit. And I think it's something that a lot of seniors should take some pride in and soak it up and just enjoy the moment and play as hard as you can, because you don't want to look back and say, man, I wish I could have given it a little bit more. You know what I mean? Yeah. You always want to give your 100% effort. So I think that's something that if seniors are listening to and coming into this Friday, you really should just soak the moment up, enjoy it, live in it, and then, remember it. So put that out there. And then, like I said last night, very proud of all the local kids, especially the GP kids. A lot of love lately from the combines for a lot of our local kids down here. This is the most love I've seen our kids get down here in the 5 years we've done this show.
Yeah, and definitely.
I think the Twitter activeness from a lot of the young coaches down here, A lot of the people, a lot of the kids putting their videos out. We preach it. Put your videos out there, man. Tag people, tweet them, because that's how you're going to get seen in a world that we live in now with social media runs everything. I think that has a big part to do with a lot of the kids finally getting some exposure down here. Because, like you said, it's hard for sometimes to coax these big schools or even mid-range schools to come down here and take a look at you. So if you're getting your film out there, you're getting these combine invites, take the opportunity, go chase it. You won't regret it, and it's something to be proud of. So I'm pumped for all the kids down here. They're starting to get some looks and starting to create a little bit of a buzz. Right? It was nice yesterday. It seemed like we were just getting overflown yesterday with all these camp invites from here to San Antonio and the Valley. It was just it was really neat to see.
Yeah, and our guy Leroy hooking us up. He's not really involved in the All-American Bowls and stuff anymore, but he was heavily involved with that. Leroy Moya down from the Valley. Hey, hook up with this guy if you need access to anything, man. So, if we wanted to go, we're there, right?
I want to go back. I'd like to go. If we have a bunch of kids here, I wouldn't mind making that trip in January and watching the kids from down here kind of perform in that combine, get up to San Antonio and just see what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if the schedule shakes out. Well, we can look at the schedule now. We know what the dates are, so we can kind of start getting stuff in a row and seeing if we're going to need to get down there. But, man, I really don't have anything else, Justin. We're about an hour and 20 minutes. Maybe
on the tap thing, Jerry. I would like to go watch tomorrow night. Just depends on the wife and if she's happy.
Yeah, same here. Like I said, I've got a sick kid here. I've got a sick kid here at home, so we'll see if I can get out on a Thursday night. But again, guys, be on the lookout. We'll be reaching out to your athletic departments to see when your athletic period is. You player of the week winners, your Elite Tank Solutions player of the week winners. That way we can get out there and present them to you guys in front of your teams and get some pictures and all that good stuff. Jerry, we will look for you, Jerry. I'm pretty sure we won't be able to miss you. I'm pretty sure you'll make it pretty obvious. 7-on-7, Javi, that's kind of hit or miss, right? I mean, I've got my thoughts on 7-on-7, and it can be good, it can be bad. It's the new AAU is what I call it. It's new AAU basketball. Your biggest bet is get out to camps. Get out to college camps, college sponsored camps. That is the best way.
Camps. You need to do camps, and you need to do any chance you get a chance. Whenever there's a chance of like a quarterback coach for quarterbacks, wide receiver coaches, when they come and they do regionals. There's some really good guys that I follow on Twitter. That if you ever you're looking, you can't find someone, reach out to me. I got people on there that I watch that I think pretty highly of on there. I've seen them produce some good people. Reggie McNeil's one of them. He's not one of the ones particular I was talking about, but he puts together good camps. He's got good contacts, and I've talked to Reggie pretty extensively in the past. And there's a lot of different tools you can do. So find the guys that are putting on these one-on-ones, or you get in there with 5 other quarterbacks and they're teaching you stuff, and then take that what you learn there and go to the combines, and that's where you're going to get seen. That's where you'll find regional scouts. So that's what you want to do. And if you can play 7-on-7 for your school, highly recommend that as well. I'm not so much sure that I'm like Jacob. I'm on the fence when it comes to these, like dope boys 7-on-7, and they're playing year round. I don't really know how I feel about that. I think year round football like that has its place, but I think it's more of a locker room setting, and you should do 7-on-7 for your high school, and I'll keep it at that. But that's kind of my take on it. Combines and private lessons. That's your best bet.
Yep. Man, that's all I got, dude. I don't have anything. Nate, are you sure that's us? That may not be us.
No, it is. I was actually gonna text you right now that I got a text that we're in the flare. I didn't want to ruin the show, but thanks a lot, Nate.
Thank you. Thanks, Nate. Appreciate it.
Apparently it's bad. Apparently it's bad, and they don't know why.
Oh, really? Oh,
that to myself. Yeah.
Terrible. Okay. Well, yeah. Gross. Okay. Well, anyways, guys, look out for the next week's show. Daytime show. We'll be on nights next week. So probably 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, somewhere around there. And again, guys, we'll get out to your athletic departments and get those trophies out to you. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, give us a follow, tell your friends, and dude, go on the podcast apps, give a review. Let's get that algorithm going. All right, go on to Spotify, go on to Apple Podcasts, go on to iHeartRadio. Give us a rating. I'm gonna say one last thing, dude. Before you're 100% wrong. Give us the rating, and this is for Bloodsport. Obviously, appreciate you watching, but let's get some interaction going, right? I'm tired of the interaction always having to be negative fighting arguments. Like, just good feedback. Yeah. I will say that, man,
I love the interactive interface we got going here, but he hits that nail on the head a lot of times. You'll put something positive out there, it doesn't gain a lot of traction. It's always the negative stuff, man. If you want the negative stuff, go to Chronica. I want good positive. You know what I mean, though? Good
People like
positive.
it's easier to
traction.
complain. It's easier to complain
Yeah.
than giving that a boy.
I agree, but
Right? I mean,
positive traction would be nice.
Yeah, it would be. Come on, guys.
Organic growth.
Do better. Do better, folks. Right. All right, guys. Again, thanks for watching. Follow the show. Get on the podcast app. Give us a rating. Thumbs up, thumbs down, something. Let's get that algorithm kicking. And we'll see you guys next week during the week. If you guys will be around, I'll be at one of the games. Justin will for sure be at GP. We may both end up at TAF tomorrow night. I may split it. I may go to Ingleside for a half, and I may go to GP for the other half. I don't know. I'll be in touch with Justin, who'll be filling me in on what's going on, whether I need a bolt or not. Good thing it's close, right there, right up the road.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next. Hang on. And we'll see you next week.